So
okay.
I'm very, very pleased to talk to you because I'm a huge Lord of the Rings fan, books, movies, stories. So I'm very happy to talk to you today.
Oh, awesome.
First of all, Charlie, can I ask you, did you know?
Did I know? I mean, about what? There's lots of things that I didn't know about. Is it? I didn't. Yeah, sorry, I'll let you finish.
The big question, did you know Halbrand was Sauron?
Well, I did by the 3rd episode in season 1. So I found out, yeah, just before we started filming the 3rd episode. But when I signed on and I filmed that scene on the raft with Galadriel, I didn't know.
Good. Okay, and can I ask you, what was it like for both of you to return to Middle Earth?
Well, it was it was great. We knew the story we would be telling in season 2, and the Anatar Celebrimbor relationship, and so we were obviously particularly excited to get started on that, and we had a really fun, enjoyable shoot, and you know, I'm really looking forward to seeing how everybody likes it.
Of course. And for you, Charlie?
Yeah, I second that. It was a brilliant time. We, you know, it's a different experience coming back into something I'd never done it before, coming into a 2nd season of a world that you've spent a lot of time in, and I loved it. It was very familiar, but also different because we were filming in the UK. But I think overall, I just felt a lot more comfortable on the set. It's kind of, you know, I knew what to expect more. I didn't have that element of being an actor and walking onto this huge set and being like, oh my god, this is massive. Although you're still always impressed by it, it was less, I guess, scary in the 2nd season.
Yeah.
You kind of knew a bit more what you were going into, of course.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, and as for the story, how familiar were you with, because everyone knows Frodo's way with the ring to Mordor, of course, but the Silmarillion is a bit more unknown, I guess, to a lot of people. How familiar were you? Because I know that a lot has been changed as well for Rings of Power, but how familiar were you with the history of Middle Earth?
When I was a kid, I was very, very obsessed, and I tried the Silmarillion. It was too much for me back then. So I didn't know it well at all. But obviously, since we've been working on this, we've particularly Charlie is extremely knowledgeable about Silmarillion, and but you obviously you do your research and your reading. But for Celebrimbor, for example, was a name, even though you know he is mentioned in Lord of the Rings in passing. When I was told that that's who I was playing, I then looked it up and went, oh wow, that's quite a figure in the mythology. So
The Lord of the Rings.
The Lord of the Rings.
For a time.
You could argue, it could be argued
The temporary Lord of the Rings.
that he is the Lord of the Rings and indeed remains so, and a mere pretender takes the title. But no, so yeah, I mean, you do your work and you immerse yourself in it as much as you can on any job, but particularly with this because there's so much there. It's joyous.
And for you, Charlie, how familiar were you with it?
I'd watched the films and played a bit of the PlayStation game, and that was it before I was cast. And then, I tried to read as much as I possibly could. And I think that, the Silmarillion, I think it's the most exciting part of everything Tolkien wrote. And I love, particularly, it's funny because maybe I just find it the most exciting because I knew that was the bit of the story we were filming. But, of the Rings of Power and the Akalabeth, like, those parts of the story, and of which we're telling the first part of it. And it's what we've done this season is very, very close to what is in Of the Rings of Power, the lore.
It is.
I love that section of the story.
Mm.
And you already mentioned that the second season was filmed in the UK rather than in New Zealand. I think Tolkien never went to New Zealand, so we probably assume Middle Earth is Europe.
Mm-hmm.
How much of a change is it for you to have the UK versus New Zealand? Because everybody sort of associates Middle Earth with New Zealand, if you know what I mean. How much of a change was that?
Well, I mean, it's not so much a huge change in terms of the world of the show. I think it feels similar landscape-wise, what we've been able to do in England, same to New Zealand, in terms of telling the story. But it was a different person, it was personally very different, I think, because New Zealand, we talk about this quite often, we were so lucky to go to New Zealand, and I think it made us really closely bonded as a cast, because we were all away from home. We'd go to set and you'd get off set and you'd be like, well, who's going for dinner? Because you don't know anyone else. So you only hang out with the people in the cast. Whereas in England, most of us live in London or in the surrounding area in England, and it's kind of like you go to set and then you go back to your normal life. And I think both have positives and negatives.
I think so too.
Yeah. But we were, I mean, everyone in New Zealand embraced us wholeheartedly. It was such a wonderful time.
It was.